Welcome to another episode of Just My Baby Daddy podcast. It's your boy AJ.
This is Eli. I'm distinguished today because of the guest that we have. We have a respected education leader, right? I'm gonna tell you what I did. Hold on, watch this. I don't want to remix his biography, so I plagiarized everything. So you can't fail me because I'm not at school anymore. But look, keep it simple. Born in D.C., raised between D.C., North Carolina, a U.S. Army veteran. He first generation graduate from Fatherhood State, master's degree from North Carolina Central, HBCUs representing, and then we'll throw that doctorate degree from Virginia Tech in there somewhere. The eighth president of Coppin State University, President Anthony L. Jenkins. Welcome.
Hey, Eli, thank you. And it's great to be here with you and AJ. And so I appreciate you all providing this wonderful platform for the things that you all do. So thanks.
I appreciate it. I like the little gas that you gave us, but hey, we'll take that.
Yeah, it sounded like me, like the born in D.C., went to Fayetteville State, and then the other accolades started coming, and it was like all the education stuff started coming. Like, well, you ain't talking about me. Definitely not talking about me.
Look, AJ told me you were an upgraded version of him. I said, boy, that's funny.
That's what I was about to say. All it is, AJ, is that one of us is the other AJ. That's it.
Right. Well, today you could be the AJ, the other AJ. Yeah. We can edit this. I'll make sure. But we'll go ahead and get you started because we don't want to take up too much of your time because we really appreciate it. And we know you're a busy man. So we're going to get you started the same way we start everyone off. What does it mean to you to be a father?
Oh, man. I was just talking to my team earlier about my daughters. It means everything to me. There is nothing greater in my life, nothing that I have in my possession, nothing that I love, nothing that I spend my time with or on, to me, that is more valuable than my daughters. They taught me that I didn't know love until I had them, because I used to love me, and everything about me comes second, third, and fifth to them. They are my everything, every day, all day. And so Ashley and Alicia, they are my heart.
Oh man, you really thought about that one. That was like a Hallmark card from 1980. But let me ask you this question. When you say you loved you, what was that moment that you realized that, look, life is bigger than just me. And there's so many things about me that I have to start working on changing so that way I can give them that love that they deserve, that they need, and that they will actually grow from me giving to them, because I've never seen a father who was a father from the beginning. We all have to grow into that role because, like you said, so much of our life is about us until they come and change the whole trajectory of how we view ourselves and those that are closest to us.
Yeah, I mean, look, Eli, that's an excellent question. And, my wife and I were married 5 years before we had our first daughter. And when my wife became pregnant at that point, right, I think I moved into a place where I started trying to conceptualize what this is going to be like, right? What does this mean? What does this mean for me? And a part of me was looking at it from a selfish standpoint because I'm like, okay, what do I have to give up now that I'm moving into this place, right? So it was a level of maturity that I had to grow into. And through that evolutionary process, I found myself asking a younger me at that time, right? Put yourself in your mother's shoes, right? Because my mother and father divorced when I was 4, so I was raised by a single mother. And so I started thinking, put yourself in her shoes and all the things she wrote you about, right? Like a curfew or manners, and how she would discipline you and how she had high expectation, all those things that you didn't appreciate at that time because you just wanted your own selfish freedom. I started thinking about what type of father would I be based on how she raised me, and that really started my process of reflection and self-assessment.
Based off of that, what you said, I have two questions. So you said you were raised by a single mother. So one question is, well, then who do you believe was your father figure that taught you how to be a father? And the other thing is, you said something very interesting about, the things you would have to give up. What were those things? Were those things that you had to actually give up, or was it just something in your mind that you thought, well, I'm not going to be able to do this, this, and this anymore? But in actuality, you never had to give it up at all.
Yeah. So first question was, my father wasn't an absent father, right?
Okay.
He was there from time to time. He was not consistent, but he was in no way a deadbeat dad, right?
Okay.
But AJ, I'll tell you this. To your point, I learned a lot from my father from the perspective of what not to do.
We hear that a
And
lot.
and then up until the age 17, every year from probably when I could probably do it on my own, so probably about 9 or 10 or so, between 9 and 17, every year, I gave my mother a Mother's Day and a Father's Day call. She was my father, right? I mean, she was there 24/7. She was the one that talked to me about girls. She was the one that was at every football game, right? She was the one cheering me on, right? She was the one who would put me in a chokehold and say, "Listen, you're gonna straighten up and do these things," right? She was the one that I was afraid of when the belt came out. So she was those things, and that's the power of a woman, is that she was able to take me and my two brothers, and I have a beautiful sister too. She was able to take me and my three brothers and transform us from boys into men, and do it in a way that allowed us to understand what masculinity is, and why it's important that as a man you also understand that you can be vulnerable, right? And so fast forward, all those things came into play when I had my daughters. But to your other point, because I was selfish and kind of self-centered and naive, I didn't have to give up anything, right?
Hmm.
But my thought process, well, let me take that back. I had a Corvette, and and so,
Oh my God.
and so, and
Well,
so, and so, and
no
so
one thing that
after
had
my
to go.
That ain't working with no car seat.
and so after my Ashley was born, right? It hardly ever came out of the garage because I wanted to spend every waking moment with her, right? So 13 months later, my second daughter came, right? So now I'm like, you know what? I found a whole new understanding of love, and this thing is sitting in the garage collecting dust. If I took it out once a month, it was a miracle, right? So I started giving up stuff like that, and I said, listen, I can sell this thing, take the actual proceeds, and put it in their college fund, and they're not even 2 or 3 yet. So that's how my thinking started changing around putting them first and making sure that I was doing what I needed to do as a husband and as a father.
Man, that is very, very mature thinking.
Yeah. That's not where I thought that was going to go.
Look,
Because I was
yeah,
thinking,
I was like, hold on now, hold on. This joker said he took the proceeds and put it to a college fund because he couldn't
yeah.
drive a car that he couldn't put 2 car seats in.
That's it, man.
Like, I was about to say, well, so then I upgraded to like a Suburban or so. Like, I just
Like,
knew it was
no.
like
So I'm not gonna really challenge you on the validity of that story, but what I will ask you, and it's interesting that you said the whole Mother's Day and Father's Day thing, because a lot of conversation has been had around, can really mothers teach men how to be men, and can mothers really be celebrated on Father's Day? And to hear your explanation, it makes sense. But do you feel like it was her that really molded you into the man that you will ultimately become?
Eli, that's a great question. I would say that um, she's probably 75% of that, right?
Mm,
And now I had mentors along the way. I had football coaches and track coaches and an uncle. I had one uncle, just my mother and her brother. So he was
right.
there. All of those people played uh, a, a role in my holistic development. But keep in mind, they were in and out. She was there constantly,
Yeah.
right? And so what she challenged us to always do was to be able to have your own operational definition of what a man is, right? So don't get sucked into these stereotypes and these things and stuff of that nature. She would always tell us one of the strongest things you can do as a man is ask for help, right? Well, that's in sharp contrast to what masculinity and most men are ever taught, right?
Yep.
And so she would talk about or talk to us along those lines, and it would really challenge me to think about. Now, I didn't appreciate it then the way I do now, but it challenged me to appreciate what she's doing is also setting me up for how to build healthy relationships, right? And that's why my wife and I have been together for 23 years, right? Because understanding that as a man, as the head of the household, I also have to position myself to compromise and to be open. And I had to learn to listen so that I listened to learn on a lot of things that my mom was teaching me. So that's where I say about 75% I will lay at her feet, because she was a rock star. She was
So you were up on emotional intelligence early then.
very early, but like I said, Eli, I didn't appreciate it then, right? I didn't have the actual IQ to
Yeah.
understand what she was doing. See,
Yeah.
she had not been a male, but she had been 13, she had been 16, she had been 17. She was trying to get me there. And so growing up in DC with all of the trappings and all of those things, she was hell bent on making sure that my sister, her only daughter, was not going to become a victim of the streets and be a teenage mom and all of these things and so forth. And her three sons were darn not going to end up in jail or drug dealers or things of that nature, right? That was her expectation. And while she rode us like a jockey, like I said, I didn't appreciate it then, but I darn sure appreciate it now.
Well, speaking on that, you were in DC, but then you went down to North Carolina and you went to a HBCU, right? And now you are president of a HBCU. And this is something that we talk about on this show often, the HBCU experience, right? What do you think, how do you think being at a HBCU helped mold you into a man?
I tell people, AJ, that I was born in Washington, D.C. I grew up at Fayetteville State. All right.
You know,
Um,
I can 1,000% relate to you on that.
yeah, man.
1,000% relate to you on that.
Yeah, man. Look, let me make what what Fayetteville State did for me. I could never repay her.
Mm,
She gave me a quality education, helped me meet and build lifelong friendships, helped me understand and develop a deeper appreciation for me as a black man, right? Understood that I didn't have to code switch as much, and that I didn't have to dumb myself down, and that I could be those things that I wanted to be, and that she was going to be there with a foundation to help me. Man, I owe FSU everything. I would not be president of Coppin State University. I wouldn't be a two-time university president. I was president of West Virginia State University for 4 years before I came here. And now I'm in my fourth year here at Coppin. I'm an 8-year sitting HBCU president. And what I tell people, AJ and Eli, is that HBCU experience, there's nothing like it. And then to top it off, the beauty is the real FSU, not that one down in Tallahassee. The real FSU in Fayetteville, North Carolina, right, has a different flavor than what goes on in Greensboro, and has a different flavor of what goes on at Howard, and has a different flavor of what goes on at FAMU, right? And that's the beauty of HBCUs. Our HBCUs, and even though they have those different flavors, they all have a common theme of Black excellence and the expectation of Black excellence. And when I was at FSU, Chancellor Vic Hackley was there, and he was phenomenal. He would walk around campus, he would talk to students, he would know their names, and he would engage you. And it was a shift for me, and it was a welcome shift that reinforced I was in the right place at the right time, hearing the right things from the right people.
Oh wow! So what actually drove you to get into education, higher education, and ultimately pursue a presidency?
Man, listen, I'm a first generation college graduate. My mother never went to college. I'm the first person in my family. So these were uncharted waters for me, right? So after I left high school, I went into the Army. And I went into the Army under the actual delayed program because I was 17. My mom had to sign me in, right? She cried like I had just been killed. And, she was like, "Are you sure this is what you want to do?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I always wanted to wear the uniform, yada, yada, yada." So when I went in, Uncle Sam and I had an understanding. I give you 4 years, you give me $25,000 for college, right? Because again, I didn't know about the FAFSA,
Right.
and all of that stuff. And when you're a first generation college kid, that can be a very intimidating process when you have a family member and they're asking, well, why they want to know what my income is and why they need my social security number. And wait, hold on. I'm not doing all that. I'm not getting into that. Right.
I'm not signing up for none of this.
Right. So AJ, that could be a hurdle. So I said, okay, I'll take care of that. Uncle Sam and I had a deal. I give you 4 years. You give me $25,000. My last duty station was Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and so I said, you know what? I am right here at Fayetteville State. I did some research. I brought it down to or I dwindled it down to Fayetteville State, Shaw, and NC State, and I went and looked at those schools, and Fayetteville State blew me away, man. And so um, when I got there, and then as I graduated, I was going to law school, right? I was going to be the next Johnny Cochran, because right around then the your OJ case was hot, and everybody wanted to be Johnny, and I said I'm gonna make $800 an hour and all that good stuff and so forth. And then I started doing internships
With
with
that Corvette.
man,
I'm putting it all together now. It's starting to make sense here.
man, that's right. So when I got to North Carolina Central, because Central has the law school, and I had taken the LSAT. I didn't score high enough on the first go around to actually get in. So I said I'll go take some criminal justice courses, take it again, and then I'll get in. But Eli and AJ, the more I started working with lawyers, I found that the law profession, which is a great profession, is too reactive for me. I wanted to be proactive, right? And the more I thought about it, I said education is a catalyst for me to help young men who look like me create more opportunities. See, as the Johnny Cochran, by the time that young man needed me, they had limited options, right? That means they were up against something.
Yep.
And you have a very narrow window in which to operate. So I wanted to be on the front end. And so as I moved through my career, I'll tell you, most people who go to college, they may major in something, but as I tell my students now, most people fall into a career, right? Very few people make it from A to Z based on that was their dream when they were whenever, right? Life gets in the way. You start to lean on your, skills that you're good at. Somebody throws you an opportunity, you take it. Those type of things.
Right.
So I had no intentions of becoming a university president. I didn't know what that was when I was in college. I didn't know what that was when I was in grad school, because there's no degree in becoming a university president, right? There's no pathway for that. And if you're looking at the HBCU space, there's only 100 people who can serve. There's only 100 plus HBCUs. So as I moved throughout my career, I had great mentors and great sponsors who helped me tap into my potential. And then naturally, things just started happening for me. And I've been very blessed, very fortunate. But I have also worked very hard to,
Right.
be where I am.
Gotcha. So when it comes to parenting, being a president, are there parallels to dealing with your own children versus dealing with other people's children?
Yeah, great question. so, so one is when I'm dealing with other people's kids, I can't lay hands. Okay, so I always have to. I always got to be mindful of that, right? You know, but no, in all seriousness, one of the things when I talked about Chancellor Hackley, and one of the things that I've implemented at the institutions I've been at is, and this is another cornerstone of the HBCU education, is that I've never lost focus on in loco parentis, which is Latin for in place of the parent, right? And so when HBCUs were created and free slaves came and brought us their, sons and daughters, which I say today are our parents' greatest assets, they had a covenant with the institution. They said, listen, I'm going to bring you my son or daughter. I want you to feed them, educate them, protect them, and I'm going to come back and get them. And I expect them to be better than when I drop them off.
Yep.
I still believe in that wholeheartedly, right? That is the agreement that I make with every parent and every student who comes to Coppin State University. I have a responsibility. I have a moral and ethical obligation to make sure I provide them with what they need. And in this partnership, they have to do their part. They have to go to class. They have to buy their books. They have to be engaged, right? They have to be a part of the shared governance of their own education. And
Right.
so I challenge my students like I do my two girls. Now, there's probably some of the, lovey, fluffy stuff that I do with my girls. I obviously can't do with my, students, but the actual expectations are still the same. I expect you to want better, do better, and be better. I expect you to add value to every environment you enter. I expect you not to be entitled, but to understand you have the privilege of looking at the world through an educated perspective. So I talk to them about all of those things. And yes, I do get in my students' case, right? When they are not doing well, when they got a 1.9 and they come to me saying they need money to stay in school, you are not a good investment, young man, young woman. Why should I give you $1,000 when I got a 3.4 who needs that same $1,000, right? So I I try to help them understand as I do with my daughters two things, and I'll end with this. One is it always bothers me when people say to college kids, well, once you get into the real world, right? This is the real world. Because if you can't manage your time, if you can't balance your money, if you can't develop discipline and structure, right? If you can't do it in college, when are you going to learn how to do it? Because later it only becomes more costly, right? And then
Harder.
and then the last thing is that I always challenge my daughters to understand that when they get to this point, earning your degree doesn't make you educated, right? Education is about advocacy. It's about mobility. It's about transformation. It's about those things that you come to a place where you understand that this is all bigger than just you. And so that's where I kind of come down on that. I love on my students. I love on my daughters. I challenge my students. I challenge my daughters, and I'm here to support and nurture both of them. And that's what I do every day, all day.
Gotcha.
So that was great. That was a great
yeah,
answer.
no. I'm gonna tell you what I was sitting there. I was tell you what I was sitting here thinking about, right? So him and his Johnny Conquer path didn't really work out.
It did.
But this Joker can talk.
Listen, Eli. I was gonna ooze and wow juries, man, and make $800 an hour just like Johnny.
Now, I don't know about the ooh and ah, but they were gonna listen at some point.
but I do want to ask you a question, because I don't know anyone that we'll have on the show that'll be more qualified to answer this, because we've had a lot of dads on the show that had kids young while in school, in college. And I mean, I was a trip away from being with myself. Like it happens like that, right? But especially you have a lot of young fathers that are trying to make their way into college. Like, is there anything that you would say to them? Because I know when I was going through that process, my thing was, you know what? We're gonna have this kid. I'm on my way to the military. Like, I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna, But college, I can't go to college. I'm about to have a kid. You know what I mean? Like, what do you say to somebody that really feels like, especially a young? Because I was 17 and I'm like, man, there's no way for college can't be for me. Like, this is it. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to actually. I never had the option of not being there in my child's life. I'm going to be there. I want to be there. But school, like, come on, right? I need money.
Yeah.
What do you say to somebody like that?
This is where it gets tough, right? This is where we circle the wagons and we talk about that mentorship and that support to help build that self-confidence and that self-efficacy in that young man, right? So here's what I say to him, AJ, and then I proceed to help and walk with him, right? Because giving advice and not showing up is hollow, right? So what I want him to understand is right now, what's out in front of you is far brighter than what you're thinking about right now. All right. I need you to understand that I need you to invest now for the long haul, because you're going to be a father for the rest of your life. And the longer you kick the can down the street, the more difficult it's going to be for you and your daughter or son. So I need you to bite the bullet now. Get this education. It is now all the more reason that we have a strong plan to get you from start to finish with as little delay time as possible, because you're on the clock. Okay? But I also want him to understand is that I don't need you to be a hypocritical dad who down the road go and tell her what she or he needs to accomplish and you weren't willing to do it. Right?
Yeah.
The greatest thing we can be is the example. Right? And everybody who was facing that crossroad at some point, as they forged through, as they punched through, they look back now and say, man, I'm glad I did. Look at where I am. What if I had not? Right? So it is that moment of, as I tell young people, we're always walking between hope and faith. All right? At some point, you got to stop hoping, because that doesn't require action. Faith requires action. And I'm going to move you over here and understand you got to have faith to see yourself through this. And we're going to circle the wagons with a group of folks who are going to help you. That is what I would tell that young man. And then, like I said, I would proceed to make sure I am with them, because every day is not going to be a good day.
And I believe that type of answer you will only get from somebody that's at an HBCU. I could be wrong. But honestly, like, that's what makes HBCUs different to me. Because, like I said, if it wasn't for Miss Hawkins, like, literally walking me through, damn sure wouldn't be sitting here doing this.
AJ,
it's true.
AJ, listen, we love our guests.
Oh, stop it, Eli.
We love our guests, but you you are gassing him up a whole lot right now.
No,
Because
but it's true.
I'm telling
The
you,
Don't be like
experience.
that, Eli.
he writes this stuff down, man. I'm trying to tell you. Watch this, AJ. So let's get back to you as a father.
Okay.
So what are some of the biggest things that you learned from your daughters that you had to learn and it helped you grow as a man? Watch this, AJ.
Don't overburden people with my baggage. Okay. So as a father, like, whenever my daughters, and they still do, Eli, they would come to me, and they still come to me when they hear things on the national stage, and they see stuff on TikTok and all this stuff, and they say, "Daddy, what do you think about this?" At that moment, I'm at a crossroads, right? I can give them my opinion, which has been tainted with 30 years of life they haven't lived, right? Or I do what I typically do and I say, well, tell me what you think, right? Because I want them to as I tell them, if you don't learn to develop your own voice, you are going to steal somebody else's, right? If you don't think for yourself, you're going to be a follower of those who can manipulate you at any given turn. So that's one of the things that I do with my daughters on a regular. And I know to them it's frustrating sometimes because they're looking to me for the answer. But I want them to understand, based on everything you have in front of you, you know what you want to do. You're looking for confirmation and validation, right? You know what you want to say. So that, Eli, is what I have tried to do with my daughters, to really not burden them with my perception of things, right? Because I can be quick on something and say, oh man, I hate that dude, right? And they'll absorb that with no context and no understanding as to why. But because they love their daddy and the sun sets and rises on me, they'll say, I hate that guy. And someone will say, why? And they'll have no evidence to support their position. So that's one of the things that I try to do with my daughters.
That is good.
Do you feel like they have an educational pressure because of who you are and what you do?
No. Well, let me say this. We have talked about that, right? And as I told them, one of the things that I never want them to do is to try and to emulate or walk in my shoes, right? And that's why I try to expose them to so much and so many people. As I've told them, listen, you're going to always have naysayers and cynical people throughout life, folks who tell you what you can't do and all of these things and so on and so forth. I want you to live a quality of life that makes you happy. That's going to make me happy, right? But to watch them try and be me, that's not their life, right? I want them to live their life. That's why they're here. And that's the beauty of raising children and then being a big enough parent. And trust me, guys, it's tough because I have two daughters. It's tough, right? Then being able to let them grow and develop their own personalities, because when they talk about school, AJ, the first thing I think about are those darn Kappas and those Omegas and those Alphas. I'm like, heck no.
Some of them I don't worry about, but I got you.
You know, I don't trust none of them.
Gotcha. So look, AJ, we got to go ahead and get him out of here. So you know he got a ton of things to do. So we're gonna get you out of here on 2 questions.
Okay.
I don't think you prepared for him. So AJ gonna give you one. Let's see what you got for it.
All right.
What advice would you give to a new father?
Appreciate every second, not every moment, every second. Take a lot of pictures. Videotape her or him as much as you can. They will grow so quickly before your eyes that you won't even be able to keep up with how quickly time is passing. I would tell him to open himself up to be vulnerable, right? And to understand that in the same minute, that child that you birth, that you love, will take you from joy to anger. But also remember that you're dealing with someone who is still developing. And just hug and kiss them as much as you can. That's what I would tell them.
So that's good, because those are really deep, and it touches back into some of the stuff that you talked about earlier about being connected emotionally as well.
Yeah.
Because it used to be perceived as being, let's say, soft, quote unquote, to love on your kids, to kiss on your kids. And AJ and I used to talk about this early on. It's like, nah, this is what we're supposed to do, because if you want to be honest, or let me just speak for myself. That's not what I got from male figures when I was growing up. It's like, yo, suck it up, keep going, dry your tears. There's no such thing as pain. You like all this perceived masculine stuff, and it's not cherishing those moments and showing how much affection and love that you have for your children. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. But the last thing I want to ask you is, I mean, you have your hands in so many different organizations, boards, president of the school, so you're very well seen. But as a man and as a father, what do you want your legacy to be?
How I raise my daughters. Let me be clear about this, Eli. And I've said this before, so this is not something that I'm just saying to you all. I've said it in public. I've said it at my presidential inaugurations. I said it to hiring boards. Nothing will ever come before my daughters. I get one chance to raise my daughters. I can have 100 careers. But my daughters will not at 18 walk out of my house and say, I don't know who my father is. I don't have a lot of memories with my dad. I don't miss a tennis match. My daughter is a regional tennis champion. I don't miss a volleyball match. I don't miss dinner unless I'm out of town for a conference. And then we are, FaceTiming, right? I am always there. I try to be for conversations and, the girl stuff and the guy stuff and whatever they want to talk about. You have to be present in that moment. So nothing I do will ever, and my oldest daughter is now 18, so I've been at this for some time. Nothing I've ever done and nothing I ever will do will be more important than my daughters, because how I love them, Eli, will impact how they build relationships, how they see themselves, and how they see their self-worth. That's
good.
my legacy.
That is good, because that's exactly what we always talk about, is that being present is what matters.
You got to be present.
Being present, being an open ear or a listening ear, and just a support system. That's what we're supposed to do, and it's something that a lot of us are learning on the fly.
Yeah.
We just got to make it happen. But hey, like we said in the beginning, man, your time, this conversation is so much appreciated. I mean, we had a good time, and there's so many other things that we could probably talk about. But thank you for taking your time to chop it up with us.
Hey, thank you, and again, you all keep doing great work, man. And it was a pleasure to be on with y'all, and I'm glad to be a baby's daddy.
Thank you for watching another episode of Just My Baby Daddy podcast. I know you liked what you saw. So what I need for you to do is go back and look at past episodes. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share our YouTube page, Just My Baby Daddy Podcast. And you can follow us on all social media at Just My Baby Daddy Pod.